Commander Vexistar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive view screen. His four eyes scanned the data flowing across multiple displays. For 3 months now, his Zarathi raider fleet had been studying human shipping routes in this sector of space. What he saw made no sense. Every human ship traveled alone, not in pairs, not in small groups, not in the massive convoys that other species used for protection. Always alone, drifting through the dark between stars like lost souls. "Commander," his second officer Zexnal approached, holding a datapad. "We have confirmed sightings of another human vessel, the cargo ship Aurora's Edge, commanded by someone called Jake Morrison." Vexitar turned his scaled head toward his officer. "Let me guess, it flies alone?" "Yes, sir, just like all the others." The commander made a clicking sound with his mandibles, a sign of confusion among his people. In all his years raiding merchant vessels, he had never seen behavior like this. The Keltorians traveled in groups of 5 or 6 ships. The Andraxians moved their cargo in heavily protected convoys of 20 vessels or more. Even the peaceful Zanari merchants grouped their ships together for safety. But humans? Always alone. Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair of Aurora's Edge, sipping coffee from a metal cup. His ship was not impressive to look at. It was old, with patches welded over hull damage from years of service. The paint had faded and some of the exterior lights flickered, but it was reliable and it was his. Behind him, his small crew worked at their stations. Amy Carter checked the navigation systems. Steve Parker monitored the engines. Linda Hayes reviewed the medical supplies they were carrying to the Outer Rim colonies. None of them spoke much. Space travel could be lonely, but they were used to it. Jake looked at his scanner display. Empty space in all directions. No other ships for light years. This was normal. This was how humans traveled. He had never questioned why. Back on the Zarathi, Flagship Commander Vextar called a meeting with his senior officers. The conference room was dark, lit only by the glow of tactical displays. Around the oval table sat the captains of his raider fleet. "Officers," Vextar began, "we have a problem, or perhaps an opportunity." Fleet Admiral Korath, an older Zarathi with battle scars across her face, leaned forward. "The humans?" "Yes. Their shipping patterns make no tactical sense. Every vessel travels without escort. No support ships, no defensive formations. They are completely vulnerable." Captain Nexvar, the youngest officer present, raised a clawed hand. "Perhaps they are simply stupid." Several officers made the clicking laugh sound of their species. But Vextar did not laugh. He had fought many different alien races. Humans were not stupid. Their individual ships were well designed, their crews were trained, their technology was advanced, but they flew alone. "I do not think they are stupid," Vextar said slowly, "but I do think they are vulnerable, and vulnerability means profit for us." Admiral Korath brought up a holographic display showing recent shipping data. "Look at these numbers. In the past month, we have tracked 47 human vessels through this sector. 47 ships, all alone, all carrying valuable cargo." The room fell silent as the officers studied the data. 47 easy targets. "What do you propose, Commander?" asked Captain Dexfall. Vextar stood and walked to the display. "We increase our surveillance. We map their routes more carefully, and then we strike multiple targets at once. If they want to fly alone, we will show them why that is a mistake." On the bridge of Stellar Drift, Amy Carter was now serving as captain of her own vessel. She had been promoted recently and still felt nervous about commanding a ship. Her mission was simple: explore the asteroid fields near the Proxima system and look for mineral deposits. Like all human ships, she traveled alone. The nearest human vessel was probably days away at maximum speed. This was standard procedure. This was safe. This was how things had always been done. Amy checked her communication systems. Everything was working normally. If she needed help, she could send a distress signal, but help would take time to arrive. Maybe too much time. She pushed the thought away. Humans had been traveling this way for centuries. There had to be a good reason. Commander Vextar studied the latest intelligence reports. His scouts had identified several prime targets. The cargo ship Aurora's Edge would be carrying medical supplies worth millions of credits. The research vessel Nova's Pride had expensive scientific equipment. The mining ship Iron Resolve probably held rare metals, all flying alone, all vulnerable. Commander, Zexnal entered the bridge carrying new data. Our long-range sensors have detected something interesting. What is it? 3 human ships will be in this sector within the next 2 days, all following predictable routes. All isolated from each other by at least 6 hours of travel time. Vextar felt excitement building in his chest. This was perfect. 3 targets far enough apart that none could help the others, but close enough for his fleet to hit them all in a coordinated attack. Excellent. Begin preparing the fleet for synchronized strikes. I want boarding parties ready on all ships. We will capture these vessels intact, if possible. Yes, Commander. But sir, are you certain we should attack 3 at once? We have never attempted such a large operation against human targets. Vextar looked at him with all 4 eyes. Officer, they are alone, isolated. What could possibly go wrong? As the Zarathi fleet prepared for their largest raid yet, the human ships continued on their solitary paths through space. Captain Jake Morrison finished his coffee and settled back in his chair. Captain Amy Carter ran another diagnostic on her exploration equipment. Captain Lisa Beck reviewed her research mission parameters aboard Nova's Pride. None of them knew that alien raiders were watching them. None of them knew that an attack was coming. And none of them knew that their lonely journey through the stars was about to teach the Zarathi a lesson they would never forget. The stars continued to shine in the darkness, keeping their secrets. Soon, those secrets would be revealed. The attack came without warning. Commander Vextar had positioned his fleet perfectly. 3 groups of Zarathi raiders moved toward their targets like hunters surrounding prey. Each group had enough firepower to disable a human ship quickly and cleanly. Captain Lisa Beck was reviewing star charts when her alarm system screamed. The bridge of Nova's Pride filled with red flashing lights. Her crew jumped to their stations as unknown ships appeared on their sensors. Captain, we have 3 vessels approaching fast, reported her navigator Carol Brooks. They are not responding to our hails. Lisa stared at the tactical display. The ships were sleek and black with weapon ports glowing along their hulls. She had never seen designs like these before, but their intent was clear. Red alert. All hands to battle stations, Lisa ordered. Her fingers moved quickly across her command console, activating systems that most merchant captains never had to use. But the most important system she activated was not weapons or shields. She opened the emergency communication channel and sent a message that would reach every human ship within 50 light years. This is Captain Lisa Beck of the research vessel Nova's Pride. We are under attack by unknown alien vessels. I am initiating Prometheus Protocol. All human ships maintain distance. Repeat, all ships maintain distance. 6 hours away, Captain Ryan Torres heard the message aboard his mining ship Iron Resolve. His first instinct was to change course and help. Every human captain felt the same urge when they heard a distress call, but Ryan forced himself to turn away instead. Navigation. Plot a course away from Nova's Pride coordinates, he ordered. Maximum speed. His crew looked confused. Tony Clark, his chief engineer, spoke up. Captain, shouldn't we go help them? Ryan's face was grim. No. The Prometheus Protocol is absolute. We maintain distance. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison aboard Aurora's Edge received the same message. He was only 4 hours away from Nova's Pride, close enough to help, close enough to make a difference, but instead of turning toward the battle, he turned away. Amy, set course for the outer system, he told his navigator Amy Carter. Emergency speed. But Captain Morrison, they need help, Amy protested. Jake looked at her with sad eyes. No, they need us to stay away. Trust me. Back at Nova's Pride, the Zarathi ships opened fire. Blue energy beams struck the research vessel's shields. The ship shook as power systems fluctuated. Lisa held onto her captain's chair as sparks flew from damaged consoles. Shields at 60%, Carol Brooks reported. They are trying to disable us, not destroy us. Lisa nodded. The attackers wanted to capture her ship, not blow it up. That meant her crew might survive this. She opened a ship-wide communication channel. All hands, prepare for boarding. Remember your training. Stay calm. Follow protocol. The Zarathi continued their assault. Within minutes, Nova's pride shields failed completely. Boarding pods launched from the alien ships and attached to the human vessel's hull like metal parasites. Cutting tools began burning through the outer doors. Commander Vextar watched the attack from his flagship with satisfaction. Everything was going according to plan. His other two strike groups reported similar success. The cargo ship Aurora's Edge had fled the area, just as predicted. The mining vessel Iron Resolve was also running away. "Cowards," Admiral Korath said with disgust. "They abandoned their own people." "It makes our job easier," Vextar replied. "Begin boarding operations on all 3 targets." The Zarathi boarding parties broke through Nova's Pride outer doors. Armed, aliens in combat armor moved through the corridors expecting resistance. Instead, they found something strange. The human crew was not fighting back. They stood in groups with their hands raised, but their faces showed no fear. Instead, they looked almost sad. Some were whispering to each other. Others closed their eyes as if praying. Dr. Linda Hayes, the ship's chief medical officer, stepped forward as the Zarathi entered the bridge. She was an older woman with gray hair and calm eyes. "I am Dr. Hayes. I surrender this vessel to you," she said quietly. "But I want you to know that you have made a terrible mistake." The Zarathi squad leader, Subcommander Zexnal, pointed his weapon at her. "Silence, human. You are our prisoners now." Linda nodded slowly. "Yes, we are your prisoners, and you are about to learn why human ships fly alone." Zexnal did not understand her words, but something in her voice made him uncomfortable. The human crew continued to look sad rather than afraid. One young officer was actually crying, but not from fear. He seemed to be mourning something. "Search the ship," Zexnal ordered his troops. "Find their cargo and prepare it for transfer." As the Zarathi spread through Nova's Pride, they discovered that the research vessel carried more than just scientific equipment. Hidden panels in the walls contained technology they did not recognize. Strange crystalline devices that hummed with power. Control systems that seemed to respond to touch and thought rather than simple commands. In the engine room, Zarathi technicians found something even more puzzling. The ship's power core was not just a fusion reactor. It was connected to a network of quantum devices that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else. "Commander," one technician reported over the communication system, "this ship has technology we have never seen before. The power systems are unlike anything in our databases." Vextar frowned. Human ships were supposed to be simple. Their technology was known to be effective but not exotic. Yet his boarding parties were finding equipment that seemed almost alien. "Continue your investigation," he ordered, "and begin interrogating the prisoners. I want to know what we have captured." But as the hours passed, the Zarathi began to notice something wrong. The captured humans remained strangely calm. They answered questions when asked, but their responses made little sense. They kept talking about protocols and safety measures and ancient disasters. Captain Lisa Beck, under interrogation in her own ready room, looked at her captors with pity in her eyes. "You should have studied our history more carefully," she said, softly. "You should have learned why we travel alone." "Tell me," Zexnal demanded. Lisa shook her head. "It is too late now. The process has already begun. I am sorry for what is about to happen to you." Across the ship, other human crew members were saying similar things. They spoke of protocols and safeguards. They mentioned names like Prometheus and Mars Colony. They talked about lessons learned from terrible mistakes, but most disturbing of all, they kept apologizing to their captors. The Zarathi had captured 3 human ships successfully. They had taken dozens of prisoners. They had seized valuable cargo and technology. By every measure, their raid was a complete success. So why did the humans look so sad? And why were the ship's strange quantum devices beginning to hum louder? The interrogation room aboard the Zarathi flagship was cold and dark. Dr. Linda Hayes sat across from Sub-Commander Zexnall, her hands folded calmly in her lap. The alien had been questioning her for 2 hours, but her answers only made him more confused. "Tell me about your ship's technology," Zexnall demanded, his 4 eyes focused on her face. "What are those quantum devices we found?" Linda looked at him with the same sad expression she had worn since her capture. "They are safety systems, protection devices. We built them after we learned what happens when humans travel together." "What happens? Speak clearly, human." Linda sighed deeply. "Have you ever heard of the Mars colony incident?" Zexnall made a clicking sound of frustration. "Stop speaking in riddles. Tell me what I want to know or face punishment. I am trying to help." "You understand," Linda said softly. "But you do not want to listen. Your people never studied human history, did they?" In another part of the ship, Captain Steve Parker was being questioned by a different Zarathi officer. Steve was younger than Dr. Hayes, with short brown hair and tired eyes. He had been captain of a small cargo vessel before his capture. "Your ships have unusual modifications," the Zarathi interrogator said. "Explain their purpose." Steve rubbed his forehead. "We call them containment systems. Every human ship has them. They are supposed to prevent what happened before." "What happened before?" "The disasters, the accidents, the times when too many humans were in one place and things went wrong." Steve looked directly at his captor. "We learned that human minds can be dangerous when they work together in certain ways." The interrogator did not understand. "Human minds? What threat could your thoughts pose to anyone?" Steve almost smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You are about to find out." Across the ship, engineer Carol Brooks was being held with several other crew members in a cargo bay. The Zarathi guards watched them carefully, weapons ready, but the humans sat quietly, some with their eyes closed, others whispering to each other. One of the younger crew members, a navigation officer named Pete Adams, was shaking slightly. Carol put a hand on his shoulder. "Stay calm, Pete," she whispered. "Remember your training, keep your emotions controlled." "But Carol, they do not know what they have done," Pete whispered back. "Should we not warn them?" Carol shook her head. "It is too late for warnings now. The resonance has already started. Can you feel it?" Pete nodded. He could feel something building in the air around them. A strange energy that seemed to come from the humans themselves. The other crew members felt it too. Some were trying to meditate. Others were doing breathing exercises. But despite their efforts, the feeling continued to grow stronger. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Vextar studied reports from his boarding parties. The 3 captured human ships were yielding interesting technology and valuable cargo. But the prisoners were behaving strangely. His officers reported that the humans seemed more concerned about their captors than themselves. "Commander," his science officer approached with a data pad. "We are detecting unusual energy readings from the captured vessels." Vextar looked at the readings. "What kind of energy?" "Unknown. It appears to be emanating from the quantum devices we found, but the energy levels are increasing slowly but steadily." "Is it dangerous?" The science officer hesitated. "We do not know, sir. The energy does not match any known weapon signatures, but it is definitely artificial, and it seems to be responding to the presence of the human prisoners." Vextar felt the first touch of uncertainty. "Responding how?" "The energy spikes whenever the humans show emotional stress. When they are frightened or angry, the readings increase. When they remain calm, the energy stays stable." This information troubled Vextar. He had captured many different species over the years. None of them had technology that responded to emotions. But then again, none of them had flown alone the way humans did. Back in the interrogation room, Dr. Linda Hayes continued trying to explain to Sub-Commander Zexnall. "In the year 2387, humans established a large colony on Mars," she said. "Nearly 1 million people lived there. The colony was successful and growing. But the colonists had found something in the Martian ruins, ancient technology from a dead alien race." Zexnall leaned forward. This was the first useful information the human had provided. The technology was based on quantum consciousness interaction, Linda continued. It could read thoughts and emotions. It could amplify mental energy. The colonists thought it was wonderful. They used it to improve their lives in many ways. What went wrong? Linda's eyes grew distant. A solar storm disrupted communications with Earth. The colonists were cut off and alone. They became frightened, desperate, and their fear fed into the alien technology. Zexnall waited for her to continue. The technology amplified their emotions. Fear became terror. Worry became panic. And as more people panicked, the effect grew stronger. The quantum systems began resonating with human consciousness in ways no one had predicted. What happened to the colony? It was destroyed in 6 hours. 1 million people died. The quantum technology overloaded and created a chain reaction that tore apart the planet's crust. We lost the entire colony and had to evacuate 3 nearby settlements. Zexnall stared at her. You are lying. Linda shook her head. After Mars, we learned that human consciousness has properties that interact dangerously with certain types of quantum technology. When humans are in groups and experience strong emotions together, we can accidentally trigger catastrophic reactions in quantum-based systems. That is impossible. Is it? Linda asked quietly. Tell me, what powers your ships? What runs your computers and weapons? Do any of your systems use quantum processing? Zexnall did not answer, but Linda could see the fear beginning to show in his eyes. That is why we fly alone, she continued. Not because we are antisocial or cowardly, but because we are dangerous. When humans travel in groups, we risk destroying ourselves and anyone near us if we encounter the wrong technology. You are prisoners, Zexnall said, but his voice was less confident than before. You cannot hurt us. Linda looked at him with deep sadness. We are prisoners who are frightened and desperate. We are humans whose emotions are growing stronger every moment. And your ships are powered by quantum technology. For the first time since the interrogation began, Zexnall felt afraid. And throughout the Zarathi fleet, quantum-powered systems began to flicker as they resonated with the growing fear of their human prisoners. Commander Dan Cooper sat in the holding cell aboard the Zarathi cruiser, his back against the cold metal wall. Around him, 12 other human prisoners tried to stay calm. But Dan could feel the tension building like electricity in the air. Every human in the cell could feel it. The young officer beside him, Karen Mills, was a xenopsychologist who had been studying alien cultures when the raiders captured her ship. She understood better than most what was happening to them. Commander, she whispered, the resonance is getting stronger. I can feel it in my mind. Dan nodded grimly. How long do you think we have? Not long. Maybe hours. The quantum field is building faster than it should. There must be more quantum technology on these ships than we thought. Pete Adams, who had been captured from the mining vessel, spoke up from across the cell. Should we tell them? Should we try to warn them again? Dan shook his head. We tried. They do not want to listen. They think we are lying or trying to trick them. The truth was more complicated than that. Dan had been trying to explain to his captors for hours, but they could not understand. How could an alien species that had never experienced it comprehend what human consciousness could do? In another part of the ship, Captain Jake Morrison was being questioned by a senior Zarathi officer. Jake had commanded ships for 15 years. He had seen the safety protocols work. He had watched other human vessels maintain distance even, when it meant letting friends die alone. Tell me about the isolation protocol, the Zarathi demanded. Jake looked tired. It is simple. Human ships never travel together. We never group our vessels. We never come close to each other unless there is no other choice. Why? Because we learned what happens when we do. Jake leaned forward. Have you ever had a nightmare that felt so real you woke up screaming? Have you ever been so afraid that you could not think clearly? The Zarathi officer made a dismissive clicking sound. Fear is weakness. No, Jake said firmly. Fear is energy. And human fear, when amplified by quantum systems, become something much more dangerous. He continued. After Mars, our scientists studied what had happened. They found that human brains produce unique quantum signatures when we experience strong emotions: fear, anger, despair, hope, love. All of these create quantum patterns that interact with certain technologies. What kind of interaction? The kind that killed 1 million people and destroyed a planet. Jake's voice grew more serious. We discovered that when humans are together and feeling the same emotions, our quantum signatures combine and amplify. A few humans feeling mild fear might barely register on quantum sensors, but dozens of humans feeling terror together can overload quantum processors across an entire star system. The Zarathi officer was beginning to look uncomfortable. That is why we developed the isolation protocol, Jake explained. Human ships fly alone to prevent accidental resonance cascades. We stay away from each other not because we do not care, but because we care too much to risk destroying everything around us. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Zarathi flagship, Commander Vextar was receiving disturbing reports from his technical teams. Sir, the quantum fluctuations are increasing across all our ships, his science officer reported. Whatever is causing this, it is affecting our entire fleet. What about our weapons and shields? Functioning but showing irregularities. The quantum targeting systems are having difficulty maintaining locks. The shield generators are experiencing power fluctuations. Vexter studied the sensor readings. The energy patterns were unlike anything he had seen before. They seemed to pulse and grow stronger every few minutes, as if something was feeding them. Sir, another officer approached. The human prisoners are requesting to speak with you. They say it is urgent. Vextar almost refused, but something in the officer's voice made him reconsider. Very well. Bring their senior officer to me. A few minutes later, Commander Dan Cooper was escorted onto the bridge. He looked around at the advanced technology surrounding him, and Vextar saw something unexpected in the human's expression. Not fear or anger, but sadness. Commander Vextar, Dan said formally. My name is Commander Dan Cooper of the Human Space Navy. I need to tell you something important. Speak. Dan took a deep breath. You have made a mistake that will probably kill us all. You have gathered dozens of humans together on ships powered by quantum technology. You have made us prisoners, which means we are afraid and desperate. And you have refused to listen when we tried to explain why this is dangerous. Vextar's 4 eyes focused on the human. Explain it now. Human consciousness interacts with quantum fields in ways that most species cannot understand. When we experience strong emotions together, our minds create resonance patterns that can destabilize quantum-based systems. Dan gestured toward the bridge displays. I can see from your readouts that the effect has already begun. Your quantum processors are showing irregularities. Your power systems are fluctuating. This is just the beginning. The beginning of what? A cascade failure. As your systems become more unstable, we become more frightened. As we become more frightened, the quantum resonance grows stronger. As the resonance grows stronger, your systems fail faster. It feeds on itself until everything collapses. Vextar felt cold understanding creeping into his mind. How do we stop it? Dan's expression grew even sadder. You cannot stop it. You can only survive it. The only way to break the cycle is to separate the humans immediately. Get us off your quantum-powered ships. Put us somewhere that our consciousness cannot interact with your technology. That is impossible. We are in deep space. Then you need to choose quickly, Dan said quietly. You can try to save your ships and your crews by releasing us into escape pods, or you can keep us as prisoners and watch your entire fleet tear itself apart from the inside. Vextar stared at the human commander. Around them, bridge displays flickered as quantum systems struggled to maintain stability. In the distance, he could hear alarms beginning to sound on other ships in his fleet. The human was not lying. The evidence was all around them, but releasing valuable prisoners went against every instinct Vextar had as a raider commander. How long do we have? He asked. Dan looked at the deteriorating displays around them. At this rate, maybe 2 hours before your quantum cores start cascading. After that, the explosions will spread from ship to ship until your entire fleet is destroyed. And you knew this would happen? We tried to warn you, Dan said simply. We tried to tell you why humans fly alone, but you would not listen. Vexitar realized with growing horror that the humans had not been trying to deceive him. They had been trying to save him, but it might already be too late. The alarms were screaming throughout the Zarathi fleet. Red warning lights flashed on every bridge as quantum systems began failing across all ships. Commander Vexitar watched his tactical displays flicker and distort as the cascade effect accelerated, beyond control. Sir, we are losing quantum processing on decks 4 through 7, his science officer reported, panic creeping into his voice. Shield generators are cycling randomly. Weapon systems are offline. On the captured human ship Nova's Pride, the situation was even worse. The Zarathi boarding party watched in horror as the ship's hybrid human-alien quantum systems began tearing themselves apart. Conduits sparked and exploded. The lights flickered between normal illumination and complete darkness. Dr. Linda Hayes stood calmly in the middle of the chaos, her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, Zarathi soldiers struggled to understand what was happening to their equipment. "Doctor!" Subcommander Zexnal shouted over the noise of failing systems. "Make it stop." Linda shook her head sadly. "I cannot make it stop. None of us can. This is what we tried to warn you about. Then tell us how to fix it." "There is only one way," Linda replied. "Separate the humans immediately. Get us away from your quantum technology before the cascade becomes irreversible." But even as she spoke, Linda knew it was probably too late. The quantum resonance had been building for hours. The fear and desperation of dozens of human prisoners was feeding into the alien technology like fuel into a fire. On the Zarathi flagship, Commander Dan Cooper stood on the bridge as chaos erupted around him. Vextar was shouting orders to his crew, trying to regain control of his failing systems. But the quantum cores were already destabilizing. "Commander Vextar," Dan said loudly enough to be heard over the alarms. "You need to listen to me now." Vextar turned to him, his 4 eyes wide with desperation. "Tell me what to do." "Launch every escape pod you have. Put all the humans in them immediately. Get us as far away from your ships as possible." "That will leave you floating in space. You will die." Dan almost smiled at the irony. "We will probably die anyway. But if you keep us here, we will definitely all die together. At least this way your people might survive." Vexitar hesitated for a moment. Everything in his nature as a raider told him not to release valuable prisoners. But the evidence was all around him. His fleet was tearing itself apart. "Do it," he ordered his crew. "Launch all escape pods, transfer the human prisoners immediately." Across the Zarathi fleet, similar scenes played out on every ship. Human prisoners were rushed to escape pods as quantum systems failed around them. Some Zarathi soldiers still did not understand what was happening. Others had begun to realize the terrible mistake they had made. Engineer Tony Clark was among the last humans to be loaded into an escape pod. As Zarathi guards sealed the hatch, he looked back at them with genuine pity. "I am sorry this happened to you," he said quietly. "We never wanted anyone to get hurt." The guard did not understand his words, but the tone was unmistakable. Even as prisoners being abandoned in space, the humans felt sorry for their captors. The escape pods launched in waves, small metal capsules carrying human survivors away from the dying Zarathi fleet. As the distance increased, the quantum resonance began to weaken. But the damage was already extensive. On his flagship, Commander Vextar watched the pods disappear into the darkness of space. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to stabilize their remaining systems. "Sir, quantum resonance is decreasing," his science officer reported. "We may be able to restore partial power to critical systems." But the cost had been enormous. 3 Zarathi cruisers had lost quantum core containment and were drifting dead in space. 2 more ships had suffered critical damage and would need months of repairs. The entire raider fleet was crippled. "Sir," his communications officer spoke, "up." We are receiving a transmission from one of the escape pods. Vextar activated the communication system. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came through clearly. Commander Vextar, this is Captain Morrison of the Aurora's Edge. Can you hear me? I can hear you, human. I want you to know that we harbor no anger toward you or your people. You did not understand what you were dealing with. Many species have made similar mistakes when they first encounter humans. Vextar was quiet for a moment. Why do you not hate us? We attacked you. We captured you. We nearly killed you all. Jake's voice was calm and sad. Because we understand fear. We understand what it is like to make decisions based on incomplete information, and we understand what it means to carry dangerous knowledge that others cannot comprehend. What will happen to you now? Our ships are programmed to respond to distress signals from escape pods. Help will come eventually. We will survive. There was a pause, then Jake continued. Commander, I hope you will remember this lesson. Humans fly alone not because we are weak or antisocial. We fly alone because we are dangerous. Our consciousness, our emotions, our very thoughts can interact with quantum technology in ways that destroy everything around us. I will remember, Vextar said quietly. Good. And Commander? Next time you encounter a human ship flying alone, perhaps you will understand that we are not vulnerable prey. We are carrying a burden that requires us to stay isolated for the safety of everyone, including ourselves. The communication ended, leaving Vextar alone with his thoughts and his crippled fleet. In the days that followed, human rescue ships arrived to collect the escape pods. True to their nature, the humans offered medical assistance to the damaged Zerathi vessels before departing. They provided food, medical supplies, and even technical support to help repair the quantum systems they had accidentally damaged. The Zerathi survivors watched in amazement as their former prisoners helped save their lives. Commander Vextar never forgot the lesson he learned that day. Humans flew alone not from weakness, but from a terrible responsibility. They carried within themselves the power to destroy advanced civilizations simply by being afraid together. And in the vast darkness of space, human ships continued their solitary journeys among the stars, protecting the galaxy from the dangerous gift of human consciousness. The secret was finally revealed, but the burden remained unchanged.